And pull up the plans. Brick veneer residence for this chapter, chapter 4. And so the brick veneer residence that's discussed in chapter 4 and also 5 is basically your typical one family dwelling that's constructed in the southeastern United States. Chapter 4, which focuses heavily on the plans. You have chapter 5 that deals more so with the specifications. Okay. And they provide a comprehensive study of your typical wood frame residence with a brick veneer facing facade. Okay. So this is your brick veneer house. But as always, before we get too far in advance, let's make sure we keep our objectives in mind and what we're focused on wanting to take from it. We want to be able to identify the factors influencing residential design, describe the job of trade workers, identify major components of the brick veneer residence prints themselves. Want to be able to list major features of the living room, the bedroom, and the bathrooms within this building, but also the kitchen and the family room. Okay. Also, objective 9, be able to identify common information shown on our elevations, describe those common elements also of the rough structure and common elements found in the details, but not forgetting to identify common features of the overall residential prints. So when designing a residence should provide the living spaces and facilities for the safety needs and also the lifestyles of the inhabitants. So a good design is going to be flexible enough so that the residence continues to be useful over long periods of time and takes various environmental and also sustainability issues into consideration. So formal areas, work areas, recreational areas, and also your rest areas, each with their own special features, must provide those common basic elements. So seeing here on this bubble diagram of the brick veneer residence, we'll do a side by side. So the work area mentioned as a carport is what you're seeing here at the bottom on the prints. The arrows show or indicate circulation from one space to another. So you have the arrow going into the space as if you were driving and parking your car. You have another arrow leading to the front formal area of the living room, which would be characterized by this 4-inch floor tile broom finish porch. So you can come here, walk to the front door, which leads you directly into the formal area, aka our living room. From that living room area, you have direct connections also, a bit longer, that leads to a family room / dining room, which is our recreational area. And you see that here, that long arrow will be along this corridor or passage leading into that recreational space. Another space that leads from the work area to another area is the kitchen, which is another area that's considered work, right? You're preparing food. So which will be represented here with the arrow leading to the carport to the kitchen. So from that work area or kitchen, you have that connection to the family room. You also have that connection to the living room and the sleep areas, right? The bedrooms or rest areas. 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, which also adjacent to it, there's laundry, and baths. Okay. So the adjacency to also an exterior terrace, having direct access off of that rec area. And in the rear of the house, there's some wooded area. And in the front, the road. Okay. Any questions about that before we continue on? How big is the home? We have dimension string, so it's 22 feet, 8 inches wide. And the dimension strings that arise from the side, 4/6, 17/4, and 4/6. So 9, 7, 26, 4 inches. Okay, on the side. But 22, add it all up, you'll get your full overall dimension, but I don't have the square footage on me at the moment. Someone looking at the book at the moment? Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, but we can definitely do that math. You all have the overall square foot, but it's not terribly big. Trust me. Definitely older type of home. Again, built in the southeast. We'll see if we get that square footage for you, Joaquin. Great question. Okay. But all in all, construction procedures, right? So you have your procedures and you have your techniques, which are the responsibility of your trade workers. So in very few instances in the rough structure, detailed to show carpenters the exact placement of each stud and joist in a wall, and also floor framing, or even the roof trusses or rafter layout. So you also have electricians who are going to run their conduit or their non-metallic sheath cable to outlets according to any of the local applicable codes wherever power or light is going to be needed, and also efficiently arranged circuits for convenience so that the overloading is prevented. So you don't want too many things on one circuit or more power getting pulled out of from your panel. Also, your plumbers design and install your plumbing systems that meet, again, your building code requirements to properly provide your potable water, and that potable is nothing but meaning drinkable water, and safely convey wastewater and all your waterborne waste from your residence. Also, your heating and cooling systems, those must be carefully planned and installed, since your walls, your floors, and your structural members must be carefully cut to accommodate any type of ductwork. Now, frequent adjustments are made on the job while construction is going to be in progress. Of course, accurate print reading plans and extensive trade knowledge are going to be key to a good construction job. Okay. So here we have a rendering of the house here on the right, plan view, exterior rendering view, carport, the porch entry, front door, window. Okay. So the construction project titled brick veneer residence, right? Again, is just a one family dwelling. And a dwelling is nothing but a one or more rooms that are used for one or more persons at a housekeeping unit with a space for eating, space for living and sleeping, and any permanent provisions for cooking and sanitation. So the dwelling that we're looking at is located on a cul-de-sac. So therefore the front line or lot line is going to be curved. And we see in our plot plan view that being illustrated here. There's our curved lot line. So with this being a cul-de-sac, this is nothing but a street with only one outlet and usually a large circular area for turning vehicles. And that turning radius is often, it must be calculated when being designed. Usually it's going to be designed for, especially here in Florida, for at least a fire truck turning radius. Okay. Few quick things while looking at the plot plan. This plot plan is at a scale of 1 inch equaling 20 feet. North is facing this way. So you have the sun doing a direction like that, so to speak. East, west always plays a role when designing. So our lot line, front lot line, located there. West lot line, not as weakly as my line, but you get the point. The rear, then the side. West lot line is 213 feet long. The rear, 227 feet. East is 164 feet, with the remainder lot line not specified on this drawing. We have a side yard setback of 70 feet here. You'll always have setbacks for the rear and also the sides and also the front. With that existing road, the vehicle comes into the driveway. Noted here on the plans, this drive is not in the contract with the general contractor. There's also a lamp post that is going to be located 5 feet off this drive, but 60 feet from the house. So from this lamp post to the face of that structure, 60 feet. Overall, 75 feet, right? On the rear of the structure, on the front of the structure, excuse me. And then we also see on the side, 29 feet. So you can get a quick calculation of square footage just based off that. They'll at least give you a minimum, which should be around 2,100 feet, 2,175. And that's just for this area alone, right? So probably in the area is around 2,300 or so. On this side of the building, again, which is your east side, west side, we have 25 feet off the wall. We have a septic tank that's using a 4-foot of 4-inch PVC that connects to the tank. They say there is 4-inch closed tile in our drainage field or tile and field. This is how the brick veneer residence is situated on its lot. Okay. Any questions before we go on? So here, this where they're calling out this specifically, right? So they're saying this area is 4 feet. Mm-hmm. And you can tell how it's cut off like right here, right? Usually you'll see that because the contractor might say, okay, we're only going to provide a certain amount of off the structure, and then someone else has to come in and do this themselves under a separate contract. Yeah, no problem. Anything else? Okay. Now, exterior elevations, right? We've seen a few of those, but looking at them on sheet 2 is where we see our exterior elevations. And there's only 5 drawings in this set. Here we have our front elevation, rear elevation, right side and left side. So all these elevations complete the orientation of the house. Now your front, rear, right side, and also your left side elevations, again, are going to be shown on this sheet, which is sheet 2. So your exterior walls of this dwelling are going to be finished with that brick veneer. And we'll go back, right? Brick veneer in the front. We have wood trim at the cornices. We have wood siding on the exterior wall outside of the living room. And also, the carport is going to be stained. Okay. Now, the change of material along the front of this dwelling, like the gable roof with the raised ridge over the central portion that we see here, and also that double hung window toward this front road is going to be divided by muttons, and those are those vertical and horizontal graphics or linear projections that you see from this rendering here. Those are the muttons, which was the architectural intent of giving this dwelling a more traditional character. Okay. Front door, window, window. So when developing your elevations, especially when they were done by hand, less so now, you will lay out your floor plan and then you'll use projections down orthogonally to start creating your elevations. So if I were to take a ruler from a floor plan above and draw them straight down, draw a ground plane, and then begin to draw out the sides of the house, it'll begin to start to populate your elevations. You have the front porch. Then you'll go back in and erase those lines that project. You'll know how high the soffits are, how high your roof is, and how long your overhang is. You'll bring it down, start drawing it out. That's how you begin or start to create your elevations, even in CAD or AutoCAD. So from there, do the same thing for the sides. Draw them out, use a 45, take it, start bringing it down. And that's what they're doing, how they're creating this right side elevation with projection lines. Okay. Now, inside the plan itself, which is this front porch here and here, front door, window, we have that living room that we talked about when we were looking at the bubble diagram. All right. So this plan view of this living room is taken directly from sheet 1. And sheet 1, again, out of 5, is located as our first sheet. Now, the dimensions of the living room itself is going to be 12 feet 10 inches by 20 feet 2 inches. And this is going to be to the rough framing members or the studs. Okay. Now, the 4-inch dimensions on the partitions you see itself, like here and here, and also the exterior wall located here, these are going to represent the nominal measurements. So a 2x4 in actuality measures 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. It's not literally or actually 2 inches by 4 inches. So that's the difference between your nominal versus your actual. So lumber shrinks after being seasoned or air dried in a kiln drying. And the surfacing at the planing mill is going to further reduce its measurement to its nominal size once it's located and sent to your local Home Depot or Lowe's, used for commercially, right? Actual versus nominal. So,
you're saying
mhm.
the measurement there from the 12 foot 10 inch, you said stud to stud. So does that include taking into account any drywall as well? Is
it
that what you're saying? Is like the difference of the actual stud length being only 3.5 that's made up by the drywall?
Yeah, so with these, and you'll see in more developed plans that they will break this out for it as a framing plan. Since this set is only 5 sheets, they're trying to condense it down. And this 12 foot 10 inches being to the stud is not taking into account any type of drywall, which is more than likely going to be 1/2 inch for this residence, right? So when the contractor gets this set of plans, he understands that, okay, I have that 2x4, which is shown here as 4 inches. And then I'm going to lay my wall 12 feet 10 inches from this stud to the face of that stud. And then I'll come back in later and put in my draw roll. That answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yep. So you'll also see it where they go face of drywall to face of drywall. You'll also will see that. One thing to note is also just look and read any notes on the plans just to confirm what the architect's intent was doing, if it's going to face a stud, which more likely is going to be on the framing plan, or if they're going to face the drywall. Great question. Let's split this here. All right. So now the remaining dimensions for proper placement of the windows is going to be the height above the floor. So the typical wall section that you'll see on sheet 3 is going to provide the height above floor information for all the double hung windows in this dwelling. So the typical wall section is going to be your section that's cut through the brick veneer exterior wall. We have a dimension of 6'8.5" from the finished floor to the underside of the head jamb. So going to sheet 3, we're going to see again the typical wall section. Again, this scale is at 1.5 inches is equaling 1 foot. What we're seeing here in section is what we're seeing here on the left. Okay. Again, we have a dimension of 6'8.5" from the finished floor to the underside of the head jamb. And this will be represented as the double hung window. All right. And that double hung window is here. And we see it noted that our section indeed cuts through that window. Once that section is cut and facing down, it's facing south, we should locate and find that drawing on sheet 3A, which we indeed see here. So cutting through that whole building as a building section, you see everything south of that line looking downward. This is called your building section. So that building section is at 1/4 inch equaling 1 foot. Here we should see that brick fireplace, which we see here. That ceiling does have gypsum board to the top of that 2x6. There's insulation in the attic space. It's also cutting through that wall in the kitchen space, which we see here. And you should definitely see that door, which we see here in elevation. But interesting enough, we also see a space below. There's a basement. We also have an additional section or building section called B. And that is located, as you see here, going through the carport, looking plan north. You should see that door in the back end of that fireplace as well, which we definitely do. Okay. Any questions about this before we go on? Okay. Now, duplex outlets, duplex. So your duplex convenience outlets are going to be shown along the living room space walls as well. And then the exact location of the outlets is usually going to be determined by the electrician who will follow applicable sections of the NEC. And the NEC is standing for the National Electric Code. And wall outlets are going to be installed 16 inches above the finished floor. And that's usually standard. Now, the grounding plug of the receptacle is usually located on the lower side of that receptacle. So here in plan, we see those outlets being represented by a circle and two parallel lines. Okay. In our plan, brick veneer, you see them here as well. This is electrical graphics, representing, again, your duplex outlets. Here we have a note saying the space 2 feet, over 2 feet requires an outlet. So they put one there in between these two closet doors. These are shelves inside the closet door, representative by those hidden lines. There's a window on this wall. Our entry door into this bedroom. And a note again that says space equal distances apart as far as practical. Right? Last, the bedroom ring that we're seeing here. Okay. This is our bedroom wing. So this is going to be enclosed in that brick veneer exterior characteristic that we've been talking about. And we see on the typical wall section that we looked at on sheet 3, this also being shown to represent how this is to be made up. So a brick veneer building, again, we talked about in previous lectures, that is essentially a structurally framed building covered with brick for a finished material. So the framework of the brick veneer residence, again, is that 2x4 stud we talked about, nominal, with that wood floor joist, ceiling joists, and also rafters supported using the conventional means and methods. Now, this dwelling is going to be sheathed with 1/2-inch rigid foam insulation panels. You're going to have a 1-inch airspace to provide airflow between the frame and also that brick veneer wall for ventilation to prevent moisture accumulation within the cavity of the wall. Let's split face it to get a better understanding of what we're saying. Here's that wall in section. Our 4-inch brick. It says it's 1 acre to the frame. Every 2 square feet is anchoring to the frame of that 2x4. That's insulation inside the cavity. Here is that inside gypsum, 1/2 inch. Inside space. We have fiber, 1/2 inch on the exterior because it's our exterior side. And inside we do have a 1 inch airspace. We have that 16-inch of aluminum flashing that is to help drain out any moisture accumulation that goes inside the cavity of that wall. Now, that brick shown here, now that brick is going to be laid around your window and also your door openings to finish the exterior of the wall with a solid brick masonry. Now, the brick wall is going to be built full height to the cornice, but it does not support the structure above. Now, on the gable ends, the brick veneer wall is going to be built past the soffit. Past the soffit. Now, you want to see the right side gable overhang detail back on sheet 2. Sheet 2. Which it scales at a 1/2 inch equaling 1 foot. Right side, the brick extending above. There. Now, the window is shown in place on this typical wall section located on sheet 3, which shows that rough framing in its trim. Here's our rough framing with that X in it. And the X is going to show or denote the rough framing. Then the 9-inch wall thickness. Okay. That you see here on the floor plan. Encompasses all of what we're talking about now. So it's comprised of your 3.5-inch stud plus your 1/2 inch of rigid foam insulation panel sheathing. Then you have that 1-inch airspace. Then you have that 4-inch brick. The 1/2 inch gypsum board interior wall finish is not included within this 9-inch wall thickness call out. Okay. So 3.5 plus 1/2 plus 1 inch plus 4 inches, hence 9.